It's time to get rowdy with Rusty this week in wrestling on That Way Cool Wrestling Show Breakout.
Hello, it's time once again for episode number 12 here on the DJB Productions Network for That Way Cool Wrestling Show Breakout, which is your weekly wrestling news update of all the top stories in the world of professional wrestling. Not everything, because some of this crap has been edited out for your protection. So with episode number 12, here we go. We start this week with Drew Gulak signs a new WWE deal. So even though WWE has been laying people off right and left, they bring Gulak back and give him a contract. No details on the specific contract in terms of a dollar amount, but it is a multi-year deal. We move on to an item that started several years ago, long before we had this podcast, and it just now is coming to light. Most of you may know Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett now works for WWE, but this issue talks about his lawsuit with Anthem Sports and Entertainment. When Anthem bought Impact Wrestling from the Dixie Carter regime and the Carter family, Jeff Jarrett had originally made a partnership to call it Global Force Wrestling at one point. And he had, prior to that, he had went down to Las Vegas and taped Global Force Wrestling TV tapes in hopes to making a pilot for GFW. And then when that fell through, not the tapings, but when that TV deal that he was trying to get fell through, he made a partnership with Impact and Anthem, and they broadcast those videotapes as pay-per-views. He did 4 tapings, and they did pay-per-views, and somehow the tapes got missing or lost, or the story changes depending upon who you believe. But anyway, the tapes no longer exist. So Jeff Jarrett filed a lawsuit against Anthem Sports and Entertainment, or Anthem Wrestling Exhibitions as they're now called, to get his money back for the tapes from the 2017 tapings. So that has now gone into litigation and in the court system. And once I have more news, I'll report that here each week. We move on to the Mike Tyson photo. And the Tyson photo created a lot of controversy this week because Mike Tyson is in the AEW ring with Tyson, Jake, Cody, and a bunch of other AEW superstars. And I know kayfabe is dead, but how are you supposed to believe that Cody is mad at Jake, or Jake's mad at Cody, or Chris Jericho's mad at this person or that person, if they're all smiling with Mike Tyson as they take a picture? So that's another example of kayfabe might be dead, but by taking the picture, you're rubbing my nose in the fact that wrestling is predetermined, and you're making a mockery out of the wrestling business. So they get my come on, man moment of the week. Stop. Take it. If you want to take the photos and keep them for your own personal collection, but you don't have to post them for the public to see. What happened to suspending our disbelief? I guess that doesn't count in this instance. Moving on to AEW TV this week, we had Private Party and Joey Janela versus Matt Hardy and the Young Bucks. 3 stars as Hardy and the Bucks win. I'm with my buddy Danny J. I hate the Matt Hardy character. In the match, Private Party looked good, but it looked like Mark Quinn of Private Party had a legit either knee or ankle injury. We then move on to Butcher and the Blade as they attack after the match. Then we see the debut of AEW's Revolt, or FTR, formerly known as the Revival in WWE. We then move on to Brian Cage squashes Jobber Lee Johnson, 3-star match. It looks like Taz will be taking a managerial role with Brian Cage. Taz cut an in-ring promo on Jon Moxley about a challenge at Fyter Fest this summer. No date has been set for Fyter Fest due to the coronavirus thing, but they keep saying this summer. So I would expect it to be in July or August. More details as they announce that, or we hear it here. We then move on to Akara Shida, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, versus a newcomer, Christy James. And let me tell you what a hottie that Christy James is, and it's Jaynes. So check her out. She's on my Facebook page as well. If you want to go to my Facebook page, see that hottie. Shida wins with 3 stars, but James is a star, and I'm not just saying that because she's a hottie. She's no Cindy Snow, but she'll do in a pinch. We then move on to Cody doing an in-ring promo about his younger days and coming up and winning the TNT championship and how he will challenge any challenger. And then he put out on the internet this week that he will challenge anyone, even if they are not an AEW contracted superstar. So I don't know if that means he'll be bringing in other people from other promotions that may not be under WWE deals to feud with him, even though they don't have an AEW contract, or if that's just him working us in the promo. But overall, the promo was 4 stars, so congratulations to him for that. We then move on to Sabian and Havoc versus Sky and Kazarian of SCU, 3 stars. Sabian and Havoc win. Havoc win, and they get a AEW title shot next week. We then move on to an MJF promo, and of course MJF, one of the best in the business next to Jake Roberts. MJF does a promo, 5 stars there. We then move on to a battle royal that only gets 3 stars. This falls under the too many cooks in the kitchen here. Jungle Boy wins and gets a TNT title shot next week against Cody. So that ought to be an interesting match. We then see a ridiculous Inner Circle pep rally, and it makes my old school self throw up. Vicky Guerrero comes out yelling and screaming in her WWE type voice. And it turns into a Mike Tyson pull apart. The pull apart of the pep rally was great. It sort of gave you that WWE Tyson feel from when he was having his feud with Austin back in the day. But the Inner Circle pep rally before Tyson appeared was just a joke. But because of the pull apart with Tyson was good, that's why I gave it 3 stars. We then move on to NXT. Drake Maverick versus Jake Atlas versus Kushida in a triple threat cruiserweight title semifinal match. 3 stars. Maverick wins and faces Phantasma next week in the finals. So as I can't say this for sure, but it looks like the way they're building this Drake Maverick, who was the former Rockstar Spud in TNA back in the day, they released him, but it looks like the way they're pushing him now, they're bringing him back. They released him during those massive layoffs that the WWE did over the last few weeks. We then move on to Charlotte Flair down there in NXT, even though she's a WWE main roster competitor. Defending the NXT Women's Championship against former TNA Impact wrestler Chelsea Green versus Rhea Ripley and Io Shirai. Charlotte Flair wins, 3-star match. We then move on to Timothy Thatcher versus Matt Riddle. Kurt Angle was the special referee. I think the Kurt Angle thing, according to what I was able to ascertain, Kurt Angle has been released by the WWE as well in one of those cost-cutting measures. But they brought him back for a one-shot deal. They did this cage match thing that they call a fight pit, which is sort of like a cage, but it has a war games type, war games type feel, as well as a platform, sort of like a scaffold match kind of thing going on with it. So it's kind of all three things rolled into one. I got to give them credit. It didn't make sense at first, but when I looked at it 2 or 3 times, I'm like, hey, that's kind of cool. But anyway, I give it 3 stars, and Thatcher wins, and they even had some blood, which is rare in WWE. So it made it realistic. So congratulations to NXT for that. Well, that's going to do it for me. It was a short week. I'll be back next week with more top stories and all the latest wrestling news right here on the DJB Productions Network. Let's do our programming pitch here real quick. Be sure to subscribe to the DJB Productions Network channel so that you can get all the good programming here on the DJB Productions Network. Like I've said before, you got DJs After Dark with Danny J. Special thanks to Danny J for pushing the buttons back at DJB. You got Messing with the McIntyres. You got Capes Not Included. I finally know how to say that. Danny J will be so proud of me. And a whole bunch of other things. Check out all the programming. Some you might like, some you might not. But all of it is good. It's done with a labor of love. So be sure to subscribe to the channel so you can get all the great programming here. As well as you can get every episode of Breakout with me, Rowdy Rusty. So we'll catch you next week. Everybody stay safe and keep it right here. And until then, keep pro wrestling alive, everybody. And thank you for watching. Tune in next week. Same time, same channel.
Thank you for listening to that Way Cool Wrestling Show Breakout. We'll see you at the matches. Goodbye, everybody.